backed up as far as you can see its bumper.
Got a bird's eye view, and it certainly doesn't look good from up here.
The tank is full, the engine's humming. Those wide open roads are beckoning. So sit back and get ready for Motoring 88. Brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. This week on Motoring 88.
Well, the pit crew, especially in the IndyCar series, is extremely important. Yeah, I tell you, it's a lot harder job than driving.
I'm surprised how smooth it is off-road. A lot of the bone-jarring ride that you'd expect from this thing, we're not getting.
There are a lot of Porsches out there, and there's a lot of Mercedes out there, but there isn't a lot of Aurora Corvettes out there.
Everybody, and welcome to the premiere episode of Motoring 88, a program about what else? Cars. And speaking of cars, I'm driving a 1988 Corvette 5.7-liter V8. And it may not be sunny out, but who cares? It's great having the top down. Let's get things started and join our Steve Grant on pit row in Phoenix, Arizona. Watch this baby go.
Just minutes from now, these cars will be screaming around this 1 mile oval in Phoenix at speeds of up to 165 miles an hour. No question, these cars are quick, but it could come down to who has the fastest pit.
We have to get in the car and go straight out there and put the, well, as we call it, the pedal to the metal and stand on the gas, and you have to have confidence that they've done it right.
And if you lose, if you lose a couple seconds in the pit, it's a lot more difficult to make that up on the racetrack. Or vice versa, if you can gain 2 or 3 seconds on your competitor, you're going to be that much further ahead, you're going to catch that much up on them.
I mean, they put their blood, sweat, and tears into that equipment, just as much as I do. So if we do well, we all do well.
How important is it to pick the right guys for your crew? This is a young crew, a small crew. What kind of people are you looking for?
Well, I'm looking for mature people who don't get rattled out there, can do the job consistently, and to do an efficient pit stop where things don't get out of control. Get John in, get him out.
But then that way you don't spray it all over because he'll go, what's going on here? Yeah. If you see it weeping, just okay.
Well, actually, I've only been on this team about a month, and this is my first major job on a big team. I've had some little teams and stuff on and on. And since I was 9 years old, I really enjoyed automobile racing, and I really wanted to get into it. I figured the best way to really be into it is be part of a pit crew team.
Brad, what are you looking for with the gauge?
Proper tire pressures.
What pressure are you looking at?
Well, at PIR here, we use 34 pounds on the left side. We use 36 in the right rear and 38 in the right front. On an oval, you run one direction only. You only turn left, so you need to put stagger into the car so that it wants to turn left. That's why the tire pressures are unequal from tire to tire.
This is a brand new team and a new people, new approach to the business, and so I don't think we're going to set the world on fire by being quick and changing wheel, etc. But our main concern right now is to make sure that the wheels are properly tight, and the guys get maximum load of fuel and get out safely. 3, 2, 1, go.
So that's what I mean.
That was enough.
The best thing actually is to slow down and not try to go too fast, because that's when you make the mistakes. The thing is just to be relaxed and do enough stops here early enough that, before the race, just to kind of get a rhythm and get things rolling, and then when it's going, your best stops are when you feel the slowest.
You ever get scared out there?
Well, you get pumped up, and then when it's time to do your job, you just forget everything. You definitely have the butterflies, and when they call him in with 3 laps to go or something, you're getting kind of antsy, but when the car gets in there, you just do your job.
Well, yeah, everybody does, really. Everybody you get pumped up at the start. The minute they get going, then it's kind of relaxed. Once the first pit stop's kind of, you know, to make sure a little jumpy, but then after that, it's just relaxed time.
This is the helmet John Jones will be wearing today, and because John has never raced on an oval, this helmet becomes vitally important, not only for safety, but more importantly for communication. Through these earplugs, John's crew will be able to tell him when it's safe to come into the pits, if he's having any engine trouble, and thanks to a little microphone right here, John will be able to talk back. Why the holes?
Steering wheel button. Push to talk. Two-way communication with the pits.
You know, if you don't have proper communication, if I can't get across to them what the car is doing, or what I would, you know, what I want it to do versus what it's doing, you know, we're just not going to get anywhere. So it's a real team effort.
We, Kim and I, time the entire field by this computer. Each time a car comes by, we press the button that's coded to that car, and the machine sorts the cars by time, by fast time, by lap, so we know who the leader is at all times and where we are at all times.
One other thing, probably one of the more important things, is fuel stops. So we have a system, we'll give him in 3 the first time he comes around, in 2, in 1, in 1, and then the next time we give him the big in, and hopefully he comes in.
Slow down, slow down.
My dream car is a Ferrari.
Jaguar. A nice original 68 Firebird. Ferrari.
Saab 900 Turbo.
55 Ford convertible.
I'd say probably Jaguar. I like Jags.
A station wagon.
I'll probably have another 1968 Mustang.
Dream car was a Porsche.
A 74 Malibu.
Still ahead on Motoring 88, the Aura behind the Aurora sports car.
Next on Motoring 88, test driving a Nissan Pathfinder the hard way.
The Porsche engine in the Quaker State Indy car performs at a punishing 11,000 RPM. That's why it takes Quaker State motor oil with new QSX to protect it. The same motor oil you can buy for your family car. Now you'll receive a $3.50 manufacturer's refund when you buy a 12-liter case of Quaker State motor oil. But hurry, because the offer is good only until June 30th, 1988. Hey, back here, my oil! The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
What exactly does Nissan mean by hard body truck? Well, let's say you want a V6 engine. A powerful V6 engine. What exactly does Nissan mean by hard body truck? Well, let's say you want to help someone move.
Test Drive with Graham Fletcher.
Welcome to Test Drive, and each week on Test Drive, our expert Graham Fletcher is going to put 1988 automobiles through their paces, and then he's going to rate them on his weekly scoreboard. Now, for some odd reason, he's asked me to meet him out here in the country, which seems like a strange place to test a car. Do you hear something? Welcome to Motoring 88.
Thanks, Brad.
Now, I know you're testing cars each week, but even I know this is not a car.
No, that's right. This is one of the latest 4x4s. It's the fastest growing segment in the industry right now.
You see them everywhere. You see them downtown. What
Everywhere.
make is this one?
This is the Nissan Pathfinder.
But what kind of test drive are you going to put it through?
With this vehicle, we're going to be both on and off-road. So jump in, fasten your seatbelt, and hang on to your hat.
Let's go. Well, Graham, when you say off-road, you mean it.
It's beautiful out here. You know, one of the advantages of this thing with a 3-litre fuel-injected V6 in it is if you do get off-road like this, you've got enough power to pull you through just about anything.
These vehicles are made for this kind of terrain.
Yeah, they're designed for both on and off-road use. You'd be ill-advised to go doing this sort of thing every weekend because I don't think the vehicle would stand up to it for prolonged periods of time. One of the beauties about this Nissan is that it's got auto lock-in hubs. So if you get stuck in a river like this in 2-wheel drive, flip the lever, you're into 4-wheel drive and it'll get you out of anywhere. As you can see, this thing certainly pulls well.
Certainly an afternoon drive in the country.
That's for sure. I'm surprised how smooth it is off-road. And I mean, a lot of the bone-jarring ride that you'd expect from this thing, we're not getting. Having completed the 4-wheel drive section, let's go and try the 2-wheel drive. Just back her off the gas, now we're in 2-wheel drive and we're all ready to go.
It's quiet.
It is surprisingly quiet. Normally with a vehicle like this, with the huge tyres that this thing has on it, you get a lot of tyre noise, but that's, as you can hear, it's not evident. The V6 gives you a lot of low-down torque for when you're off-road, but it's also nice to have it when you're at highway speed. The high centre of gravity, combined with the tyres and the relatively light steering, although it handles well for the type of vehicle it is, it's still not a sports car, and people have to remember that when they're driving them. It can be a little unnerving, but as long as the vehicle's driven in the manner it was intended, these are safe. A lot of fun to drive.
Well, Graham, before you get to the scoreboard, is there any little pet peeves you have? Anything you don't like about this vehicle?
My pet peeve with this vehicle is the tyre. It looks great and it gives you more space inside, but every time you want to get anything out of the trunk, you've got to swing it out of the way. They've overcome this somewhat by having the opening glass so you can throw stuff in. But to retrieve it, every time you have to swing this out of the way. That's my pet peeve. That aside, let's go to the scoreboard and see how the Pathfinder fared. Braking. The brakes were predictable and stable, so I awarded it a 7. The handling, the high centre of gravity limits it quite a lot, so I only gave it a 6. Acceleration, 12.8 seconds to 100 kilometres. Not bad, but there's no lack of horsepower, that's for sure. 6 again. Interior sound level, 73 decibels. Well within limits given the type of tyres on the vehicle. Again, a 6. The fuel economy, she was thirsty, so we only awarded a 5.
Next week, Graham will road test a 1988 Ford Probe.
Braking, but one size does not fit all. I'll explain later on Behind the Wheel.
Up next, Bill Gardiner tackles a car's worst enemy, rust.
Yep, it's a hot machine, and like any car, it has to be taken care of properly. And our expert under the hood on Motoring 88 is Bill Gardiner. And this week, Bill looks at car care.
Well, there it is, rust, car's biggest enemy, and we're going to try and get into some of those problem spots around the bottom of the car, see if we can show you how you can help alleviate some of that rusting problem. Here's what we're going to use the screwdriver for, opening up these slots in the bottom of the door, cleaning these little drains out, any debris that's in them, getting it out of there before we wash it out. And if they clog up, that's going to be a catch-all for rust to start in there. We're going to get the wash mitt and wash her off. And then rinse her down. Now, if you do this to all the doors a couple of times a year, cleaning out all these drain slots and washing them off, getting the leaves and debris out of there, that's going to add a lot of life to your car. It's going to make those doors last longer and keep the rust out of there. Okay, another area that you want to clean up is the back of the car. As you're going down the road, there's a little bit of a vacuum behind the car, and it tends to bring debris in behind the car, road grit and splash, and it tends to clog up the back of the car, and a lot of salt gets in there too. Okay, what you're going to do is start wiping down some of that area that's hidden from your regular car washing activities. And get in there and wipe all that salt and grit and dirt out of there. And for the mechanic, the favorite part of the car is under the hood here. We're going to open her up. And we want to look at all those areas where the salt spray is blown through the grill and it's accumulated on the body. Here it is here. You can see the salt and dirt that's built up in these areas. And this is what you want to clean off. You want to clean all these areas. Get it out of there. Okay, we're flushing out this wheel area here. You want to move around the car and do this to every wheel, every position. And there's one other area that we want to move on to inside the car. Okay, here's that other spot that's a real problem area for cars in the wintertime. Okay, screws out, sill out of the way. Peel that carpet back and lift the insulation up and let her dry out under there. This one's soaking wet. Okay, we're all finished inside. We've got a great looking car. The exterior looks great. Next week we want to take you into the engine bay and show you the key areas that you should be looking at before you hit the highway for those high-speed summer miles. I'm Bill Gardiner for Motoring 88.
And now, behind the wheel with Charlie Goodman.
The first part of most evasive maneuvers and the beginning of most high-speed corners requires an application of the brake pedal. We are going to move this seat so that we can apply the brake in the proper manner. And the benchmark for this is to place our right foot underneath the brake pedal all the way to the floor, as far away as we can possibly get it, and slide the seat forward until we can feel that with the foot planted firmly on the floor, there is still a nice, soft sensitivity in the legs, no lockup whatsoever. Now, when we put our foot on that brake pedal, using the principle of leverage, we can put a tremendous amount of force on that brake pedal, yet still modulate the pedal, use that light, delicate touch that's necessary so that we can achieve threshold braking, maximum stopping in a straight line. In a panic stop, should it be required for us to lock up all the wheels all at once, then we can apply a tremendous amount of force, and using this leverage, we can maintain that amount of force over as long a period of time as is necessary to bring the car to a safe and complete stop. Now, looking at the left leg, we are now in a position where we can take our left foot, plant it firmly against the dead pedal or the flat area behind the wheel well, and by pressing that foot and putting a little bit of force through the leg that comes right up to the body, we can brace ourselves securely back in the seat, keeping our body stable and upright so that we can properly control the car when an emergency evasive maneuver becomes necessary. Threshold braking, lock-up braking, what's that all about? Find out next week on Behind the Wheel.
I would say the price is one thing, and another thing would be quality.
I don't like computers talking to me.
You don't like
No, I drive the car, not the computer.
Oh, except for the price. Price goes up, and seems the quantity and quality seems to go down.
Well, I'm not for the fuzzy dice or anything like that, but some things in the car look nice, but fuzzy dice I don't think go.
Some of the warranties aren't too hot. Not like they were in the 50s.
When Motoring 88 returns, we'll go inside the Aurora.
The Porsche engine in the Quaker State IndyCar performs at a punishing 11,000 RPM. That's why it takes Quaker State motor oil with new QSX to protect it. The same motor oil you can buy for your family car. Now you'll receive a $3.50 manufacturer's refund when you buy a 12-liter case of Quaker State motor oil. But hurry, because the offer is good only until June 30th, 1988. Hey, come back here, my oil! The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Sailboats. We're seeing more and more of them every year, and you know, some of the top sailboats in the world are made right here in Canada. But Motoring 88 is a program about cars, and our next story deals with a sports car, and it's Canadian made. Here's Sandra Neal to explain.
If you think you're seeing a Shelby Cobra, well, you're close. It's an Aurora 302 SC. Now the lines are similar and so are the engines, but this car is made for the 80s, and it's Canadian.
We've updated the car to add the creature comforts of the 80s, which would include such things as air conditioning and power mirrors and retractable top and 4-speaker stereos. I doubt the original Cobra ever envisioned that kind of amenity.
What would be the difference between buying this and, say, sending away for a kit car and spending 2,000 hours trying to put something together?
Fundamentally, the Aurora is assembled by professionals that have knowledge of building this car. The car is certified both from an environmental and safety standards, so you would find the car easier to get insurance on and probably would hold up better in the resale market.
Right now, the Aurora car plant here in Richmond Hill employs 6 people who are capable of producing 100 cars a year, all done by hand.
We have plans to not get into the mass marketing or mass production of cars. We're looking at a fine niche market, and that would not be dissimilar to the market that some world-class cars have been in for several decades. Canadians have always had an interest in imports, so we probably are at a disadvantage in the fact that they can't say that it's imported.
Well, I don't think you could ever expect it to be a Shelby Cobra. Usually replica cars are very basic and rattly and tinny and don't have the power they're supposed to have. But this car was quite tight and handled extremely well, and it's quite a good effort.
Did they mention the price to you of an Aurora?
I think they talked about $50,000 roughly in this country.
Can you compare an Aurora to a Maserati?
Oh, I don't think so. They're in different worlds altogether. I don't think you can compare an Aurora with very much else. It's rather unique.
Your customers, would they be similar to the Aurora customer?
No, I don't think so. The Aurora is much less a transportation and more of a toy. And I think a Maserati is much more transportation and less of a toy.
We're not out to build cars that do 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. But it can certainly keep up with our competition, and it is different. It's an attention getter. No matter where you go, people are going to notice it.
Thing's going to shine.
Oh, I think it's almost pretty good.
It's getting there, but you still got to get all that little, see around the trunk where the wax is?
Oh, right, okay.
You got to get all that stuff.
Right.
I want it to shine. I've owned Corvettes, I've owned Porsches, I've owned Mercedes-Benz sports cars. It drives different than all of them. It has a real gutsy feeling, much like a Corvette, but it has that a little extra that's European to it, and yet it's Canadian. The Aurora is not an everyday car that you buy to go to the grocery store with. It's a car that you buy because you like the motor, and it's pretty quick. I've played with it a little bit with friends that have owned other cars, and actually I drive it less than my fiance does, Tina.
It took me a while actually to decide to drive the car. I was very nervous with it at first because it's such a beautiful vehicle, as you can see, and I didn't want anything to happen to it. I love it. It's great, and I love to drive it.
I think you're going to see the Aurora car become the car to own. I think there are a lot of Porsches out there, and there's a lot of Mercedes out there, but there isn't a lot of Aurora Cobras out there.
Well, that's it. We are all out of time. We'll be back next week with more of Motoring 88. Make sure you join us. As for me, I've got to get this back.
Next week on Motoring 88.
Well, I don't think I'd like very much to be strapped into a spot and have all these brushes attack my body the way they do with the exterior of a car. And anybody that's taken their car through a car wash on a number of occasions can say, gee, that looks kind of dull, looks kind of deadly.
We've actually think we've improved on that because we've taken the labor out of it and kind of kept the tender love and care from our perspective in the wash. And we actually will do less damage to the car here than you can do at home.
We are accelerating. We're at 60 kilometers an hour, holding steady, and we're within sight of our cone, getting ready, and now lock it up. Beautiful.
In simplest terms, we provide the entire care program for IndyCar drivers. From the time they get in trouble in an event, whether it's a crash, a fire, whatever it may be, right on through it, including definitive care in a hospital.
If you have any suggestions or questions, drop us a line at Motoring 88. 379 Danforth Avenue, Toronto. M4K 1P1. Motoring 88 is brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.